Michael Bunting, sophomore winger for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Michael, your story is a feel-good one as someone who obviously grinded through the minors for longer than typical before getting drafted by your hometown team. It only makes sense to start at the beginning. Can you talk a little bit about your journey through the minors and how that's helped influence your time with the Leafs today?
Yeah, obviously my route to the NHL isn't the most common one. I played more than 300 games in the minors, and when that kind of happens, you're kind of a staple as a minor league player. But I kind of just believed in myself the whole way. Believed that I deserved to be in the NHL, and I wanted to earn my spot there. So when I got that shot with the Coyotes, I tried just to make the most of it, and I was lucky enough to have some success. And then signing with Toronto as a free agent was kind of a no-brainer. Coming home, coming to the team I grew up cheering for, and playing in front of my friends and family pretty much every night. So it's been a really cool experience, to say the least. Growing up in Scarborough, everyone's a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, so I'm kind of living my childhood dream now.
And obviously, you've earned the recognition now, placing third in Rookie of the Year voting last year. But after, like you said, being doubted and sort of cast as a minor league figure for so long, is there a chip on your shoulder that still kind of helps fuel your game to this day?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of just go into every game just not taking anything for granted and trying to take it day by day and not get too high on the highs and not get too low on the lows. Obviously, last year I was nominated for the Calder, and just to be nominated, I was really proud of. And not to say I didn't care if I won or not, but just to be nominated was a really cool experience for me and my family. So I just kind of take it day by day. I know how hard it is to make it to the NHL, and now I'm here, and I know it's just as easy to be cut or not be able to keep it going in the NHL. So I want to keep proving that every single day that I belong here, and I wasn't just kind of a one-year fluke. So I just want to keep my career going in the right steps.
What are some of the key lessons that the minors taught you in the AHL that maybe you couldn't have learned had you been drafted initially, or maybe some of those unique lessons that you were able to gain along the way?
The minors definitely has taught me a lot. It's definitely a little bit more of a grind than the NHL. We're busting everywhere. We're not flying to each game, or if we are flying public. We're flying Southwest and not private. But no, just that is those little luxuries you get when you play in the NHL are pretty cool. And playing in the minors, it humbles you. And I actually love my time in the minors. I love my time in Tucson. I've made lifelong friends there, and it will definitely be a part of my life that I'm going to remember forever. It was a blast, but that being said, playing in the NHL now, playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs is something I want to do very long term and stay in the NHL. So I'm looking forward to that.
And Leafs head coach Sheldon Keefe has been quoted saying time and again that your breadth of experience isn't only just something to look past, but actually an asset that makes you sort of an exceptional figure on the team. How much does it mean to have that sort of confidence behind you on the bench?
Yeah, obviously, I had Kiefer in the Sioux, so we had some familiarity. That's kind of one of the reasons I came here, because I knew him and I knew what kind of coach he was. But obviously that is nice to hear. But I just kind of not change who I am. I got here for a reason. I can't change my attitude. I can't change my game. And I've had success doing what I always do, so I can't change that one bit. So I got to go in every single game, every single day with the same mindset.
And you mentioned growing up in the GTA, the hockey culture is so fervent, especially the Leafs fandom in particular. Can you talk a little bit about what your relationship was with the team growing up, and obviously now it's amounted to you being a part of the franchise, but kind of looking back on your fan experience?
Yeah, I grew up as a huge Toronto Maple Leaf fan. My whole family is, all my friends are. So I know what it's like. I know the pressure. I know the love for the team the city has. So to be able to play in front of these fans every single night is really cool. And I still get goosebumps every time I step on that ice. I look up at one section always, and I always remember me and my brother went to a game way back, and we sat up like nosebleeds, and me and him were watching Toronto playing in Boston. And anytime I'm standing for the whole Canada, I look up and I see that section and I kind of reminisce of that. So I know, I've been a fan, and now I'm living my dream playing for the Leafs. So I definitely don't take it for granted.
Oh, and it's obviously such a major privilege, but there's also a lot of pressure that comes with not only being and arguably the biggest market in the league, but also a team that you have a vested emotional interest with as well. How do you balance that pressure that comes with playing under the Toronto spotlight?
To be honest, it's fun. It's fun to be a part of an Original Six team. You know what it's like to be in a Canadian market. You just kind of have to have fun with it. You got to know that it's there. The pressure's there every single night, but you got to play hockey, and it comes with the territory playing for Toronto. So I don't mind it at all. I understand that the Leafs fans are very passionate, and they love the team, and they love when we're doing well. So we just try to go out there every single night and perform to our best and get as many wins as possible.
And speaking of pressure, there is sort of a heightened sense of expectation after such a strong rookie season. Is there motivation in wanting to prove that, look, last year wasn't just a fluke? I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be in the league. What's sort of your motivation after such a strong rookie campaign?
Yeah, obviously, I had some success last year, and this year I want to kind of continue that and continue helping the team in any aspect I can. So I go into every single night and try not to change my mentality. I try not to change my game. I just go in there and play and play to my strength. That's whether that's going in front of the net, playing the corners, playing those hard areas, and getting pucks to. I play with Maddie and Mitch, so I try to get the puck to them as much as I can. So I just got to stick to my game and stick to what has kept me being successful.
And obviously, playing with Matthews and Marner, again, it's such a privilege, such an asset, but also there is sort of the spotlight and the pressure to help elevate those players even further. What's the dynamic been in playing on a line with those guys, obviously last year and leading into this year?
Yeah, it's been fun. Obviously, last year we were just kind of getting to know each other, and now we're all really close on and off the ice. So that makes it more fun to play with one another, that we're friends off the ice. We spend time with each other when we're on the road. We go out for dinners and whatnot, and just hang out. So I think that makes it a little bit easier going into this year, that I'm a little bit more familiar with them as people. And so I think that just carries on onto the ice.
Another thing you're carrying over from last year, which is so valuable in a rookie campaign, is some playoff experience. Obviously, we're early in the 2022 season, taking it one game at a time. But how valuable was it to get a little bit of postseason experience in your back pocket? And what are maybe a couple lessons that you were able to take from a really competitive series last year into this year?
Yeah, I'm actually really happy that I got some experience in the playoffs last year. And obviously, it didn't go the way that we wanted to, but I thought we fought really hard in that series, and we took them to Game 7, and that was a really good hockey team over there in Tampa. But I now know what it takes to win in the playoffs. I now know that you have to bring your game to a whole nother level. It is the Stanley Cup playoffs. It is one of the hardest trophies to win. So I learned that pretty quick from last year, and I'm looking forward to getting more experience in the playoffs. So.
Obviously, you mentioned one of the hardest trophies to win. So much of it is based off hot streak of certain goaltenders. Some of it can be based off luck. It is just such a wild postseason atmosphere. From your experience, is there something inherent to being a postseason performer? Is it something that can be learned? And are there certain figures in the locker room that you look at and go, wow, that emulates what a postseason performer really is?
Yeah, I think it just comes with the experience, because I think even last year, when my first game, I realized how much faster the speed is and more physical it is, and the game is just more tight. There's not a lot of opportunity to get to the opposing team's net. So I learned that. So looking around our team, I think it's just more experience we get. Hopefully, the better we get in playoffs. So that's where you kind of lean on one another, is talking about that and talking about what you will expect in the playoffs. So like I said, it is a hard trophy to win, and hopefully one day we can make that happen.
And as a Leafs fan, that there is always the anxiety around the postseason, but in the locker room, are there any particular figures that kind of just instill that sense of calmness throughout the team?
I think just our leaders just do a great job with that. I think we have a very, very close team off the ice, and I think we all come together. That's why I saw last year when we stepped into playoffs that we were all really close, and if you had any doubts or any worries, you were able to talk to one another and reassure. So I think our leadership group especially does a great job with that, starting with John all the way down. So we have a very, very close team in that locker room. So I'm looking forward to see what we can do this year.
And what were sort of the biggest differences you noticed in locker room and that social culture between the minor leagues and obviously now playing on a professional level? What were some of the biggest differences in the locker room?
I would say, well, in the minor league, the locker room, I've had very, very close locker rooms in the minors and stuff like that. But I would say that it's a little younger because it's mostly prospects. There are some older guys that are around in the locker room, but it's mostly young guys. So that was kind of the difference between the NHL and the AHL. The NHL, there's guys that have been around for 500 plus games. They are older, they're experienced, they know what's going on. So I would say that's just the biggest difference of just more experience. It's not as young compared to the minors.
I'm sure it feels like a lifetime ago now, but obviously you talked about looking into the stands and looking back on those memories as a fan. The Leafs, it's such a storied franchise. I think any fan can look back at a particular moment that stands out to them as sort of a defining moment for the team growing up. Is there one that you look back on and think, either good or bad, one that really sort of cemented your love for the team?
I would probably just say the era of when Sundin was captain and we had Darcy Tucker, Ty Domi, Caberlet, McCabe. That era when they were always into the playoffs, they either battled with Philly, they battled with Ottawa. Alfredson and Sundin always had a good battle. So I think that was the era I grew up in, and that's where I really started loving hockey, and that's where I became a fan of the Leafs.
I'm sure it's wild to think about now that there are kids sitting where you sat, going to be looking back 10 years from now thinking, oh yeah, I remember those Bunting, Marner, Matthews lines. It was so much fun. Has there been a particular fan interaction that sort of touched you, pulled the heartstrings a little bit as a GTA guy yourself?
Yeah, just I remember driving to the rink. It was one of my first weeks here, and I just saw two brothers, like I said before, two brothers walking to the game and getting a street meat hot dog. And I still remember my brother and I got that when we got to the game. We always would get to the street meat right at the corner and get a hot dog right before we went in and watch the game. So it was kind of funny that I was going to be the one playing now, and I wasn't just a fan going to the game. So I remember that pretty clearly just a year ago, driving to the rink. That was a pretty cool experience.
That's it. That's all she wrote.
Perfect.
Amazing.
All right. There we go.